How's it going, everybody? This is the Gen X Talk podcast. I'm Mike, and with me, as usual, is JB and Jab.
What's going on? What's going on, everybody?
And today we're joined by our very special guest, licensed professional counselor, Mary Susan Lyons, MS. And we are going to talk today about depression and mental health, and we are going to have a good time with it.
It already sounds depressing, Mike.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to talk about depression.
What is our title? Tell them the title, man, because that thing was nice.
Depression is not just sadness. A discussion with licensed professional counselor Mary Susan Lyons, MS.
Hi.
Hello.
Y'all can call me Susan.
Okay. Well, real quick, we're going to get into Let's Seat. Let's Seat.
All right.
I don't have a whole lot to talk about Let's Seat, but I'm just going to say welcome home, Twisted Black. Tommy Burns, he's a rap artist from the Fort Worth area. He's back home. He's been on what we call a vacation. I'm pretty sure he had to be very strong mentally. We want to hear from you, brother. Make this clip. Twisted Black, we need to get you here for an interview. They're having a big car show Sunday. That's tomorrow. It's in Fort Worth.
Where at?
Right over there. Matter of fact, you ought to go up there.
I love car shows. Is it classic or just regular or whatever?
Man, I think it's going to be whatever you have, bro.
Man.
You might want to take that. It's I don't know the exact address, but you remember Felix, right there on Felix Street?
Yeah.
When we were kids, I believe it was a Kmart, and then it became Fort Worth Bazaar.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to be.
I know where it is. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty nice, man. You might want to.
The classic car people or car people in general, we really stick well together, hardcore,
Yeah.
So every time we hear of a car show or something, we're pretty, pretty real.
Yeah, it's pretty big, man. Yeah, y'all come on out. I'm going to be there. My buddy's going to be there with his food truck, Max food truck. They'll be there. They got good food, man. So everybody go check that out. But that's all I got for Let's See. Hey, Twisted Black, we want to get you on the show, buddy. We need you, man.
All right. What time?
What time is the car show?
Oh, so y'all asked too many questions. Y'all got me there, man. God.
That's all right. We're going to talk cars.
I know y'all. It'll all day tomorrow. I know y'all be there early, 11, 12. I don't know. Ride by. I was just. We'll get it to you. I guarantee everybody who's watching, I'll have it to you.
So just so you know, Susan, I have a 1956 T-Bird.
Oh, nice.
It's freaking gorgeous. It's black. It's got the T-Bird porthole on the side of it. It's got red leather interior. Mm-hmm. I just love that car. So
it sounds gorgeous.
But I'm always scared to drive it.
Yeah.
And so anytime I can go somewhere where there's other enthusiasts around, I'm going to participate. So what's his name? Twisted what?
Twisted Black. No, that's not the car show. This is just a rapper who's home.
I just
my
wanted
bad. To plug in the show. Because we're just hoping he's there tomorrow.
I was about to ask.
Two separate events. That's Mac Henry. Actually, Mac Henry is over that. Shout out to you too, brother. But I was They people they know. They'll know what's going on. But yeah, he's home and he's who I want to get on the show, man. I want to get an interview, man. We want to know what he's doing, because we know he's about to get back in the streets. He was like one of the biggest. I'm gonna say the biggest rapper in Texas. Or at least Fort Worth for sure. Dallas, Fort Worth area. And he's back home and he's back recording. We're just waiting to see what's going on. But the car show, it's going to be there. And I'm just saying what I'm hoping. Because they're going to have a couple of rap artists from Houston. Yeah. And I'm just putting his name out there because I'm just hoping that maybe he's a surprise guest or something. So that's why I said that. That's just my personal.
Twisted Black can meet Slick Red over here, get up over there.
You better avoid the highway then.
Take
the side roads the whole way there.
Before we get too serious, because I don't want to joke around about this as a serious subject, but he was talking about this car, and there's another episode where he's going to possibly give this car to his daughter, and I'm a little bit in debt to Jeremy. So if your daughter's listening, remember I still got a plan for us. I got a plan for us. Remember,
you'll be her best friend real soon.
Hey, I got a plan for us.
So to fill you in real quick, so I bought the '56 T-Bird, and it was her dream car. Mm-hmm. But Alyssa actually is real similar to you. Like, she's got a military background. She's in the National Guard Army, and she's about to be 21.
Okay.
And so she went in the military, and she's going to school in the Dallas Funeral Institute. Which
interesting.
Okay.
Mortuary.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, literally, talking about depression. she made just recently, like 2 days ago, she made a model of a casket. And I walk in my house, I go, what the fuck is that? Like it looks like a rat casket or something. I'm like, she goes, oh, Dad, I had to make it, for school. I'm like, damn, but she's a go-getter, real strong-minded, lady, real go-getter. And her dream car is that 1956 T-Bird. And I told her, I said, okay, I'll tell you what, when you graduate college and you get a job, then one of two things will happen. I either let you have it or I die first and you have it. So one of the two, whichever the decision is.
You're really having trouble letting go of that.
It is.
Yeah, so
It's tough.
Yeah, so I came up with a plan because I got into a little bit of debt with JB, and so I was like, we just a joke around, it's just a joke, of course. But yeah, I always tell her I got a plan to say get her what she wants and to give me what I want.
So we're here to talk about mental health.
We are, and there is something before we get into the deep dive with our guests. There is something that I wanted to get into. And I actually read a post last week that said something about our generation, Generation X. It said that we were the ones who grew up early but never finished adulthood. And it was kind of, it made me think, like, what does that really mean? And what comes to my mind is the way we use social media is very unique. We're doing something with it that's never been done before and will probably never be done again. Because for one, our parents, our elders, they didn't have social media. So most of the people that they grew up with, whenever they graduated, they never saw those people again. They never saw them. They never heard from them again, except for maybe a handful of really close friends that they kept contact with. But even that was a phone call or a very, very rare visit. And then the people that are younger than us, they're using social media in a different way because they use it to make new connections. They use it to meet new people. It's kind of their social group now. I've seen people who have entire friend groups that are completely virtual and boyfriend.
You don't got that? You don't have that?
But they're people that I know. They're people that I've met in person. See, they have friend groups that they've never met before. I even know people who have boyfriends and girlfriends that they've never met in person and probably never will.
Wow.
And what makes us different, what makes us unique is that we went to school and graduated before there was social media, but we were still young enough to embrace it whenever it came out, and we use it to reconnect with the people that we knew before.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it gives us an advantage where our parents, like maybe they kept one or two friends from high school, and then after that, their friends are their family, their coworkers and neighbors. We stay connected to everybody that we went to high school with, that we went to school with, everyone that we knew. We have deeper connections because we get to follow all of their life events. We get to see them grow up. We get to see them get married, get their first cars, have their first kids. We get to watch all of the major life events of all of our peers growing up.
He's telling the truth.
And sometimes we also witness those lives come to an end. And
That's true.
That's what I want to get into because that kind of hit me on a personal level recently. A young lady that I've known since second grade. And we never lost connection, even though the last 20 years she lived in Oslo, Norway. But because of social media and because we had those connections, I mean, we were still just a video call away from being in the same room, even though she lived on the other side of the planet. And I know that a lot of the people that I grew up with and went to school with are really affected by her loss, as I am too. And I'm starting to wonder because we're getting older and this is becoming a more frequent thing. I mean, this wasn't the first person we've seen pass, and she won't be the last. At some point, this is going to happen on a pretty regular basis. And my question to you, Susan, is, are we prepared for this? Do you anticipate a new crisis of our generation because of social media and witnessing so many people that we grew up with and losing them?
I'll be honest, I think we're already in kind of a social media crisis, like you're talking about, because while we're seeing what other people are doing, at the same time, we've never been more connected, but at the same time, we've never been more disconnected.
Exactly.
I was talking recently with some patients, actually, and the fact that we've lost our tribes. You know, those family groupings where we could just reach out, we helped each other out. We, stayed in contact. We didn't, I remember being a kid and my mom's friends would come over and they didn't call first. They didn't text first. They just, came over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because in my house, you better not come over without without getting the okay first. You can't
Amen
even
to
get
that.
in. You can't even get in.
No, I won't answer the
Only
door.
my daughter. That's the only one.
We grew up,
Yeah. We didn't grow up like that.
our household always had people in it. You probably remember. We always had people in our household. Y'all know. I mean, always. And people just showed up all the time. But I think, depending on how you're wired, I actually enjoyed that. I like that people would show up. I mean, sometimes it was annoying as shit,
Yeah.
No, I think I like it too.
Yeah, it's cool. But now it's weird. Like,
I feel
like
it's
Mike said.
Yeah, I feel like it's okay if it's somebody else's house. Like, just don't come over to my house like that.
Right.
My opinion is that social media it kind of brought depression because a lot of people that I even know personally, people are dealing with stuff. And when you get to the point where, like a lot of my family members, we don't see each other, especially since COVID. So we only really see each other through Facebook. And people post, most of the Facebook is you post good stuff.
Right.
So you find out later, like, dang, I didn't know he had, he developed cancer. He didn't tell anybody. Or I didn't know he or she was going through this. Or they had a nervous breakdown last week. Because when you're looking at their Facebook, you see stuff and you assume they're fine.
Everything looks great.
Yeah, and I notice with a lot of my family members or close friends, I haven't seen them posted in a while. Then I'll reach out to them. Hey, everything okay? I ain't seen you on Facebook. I've done that several times. So
Yeah.
yeah, things are.
It always makes me feel good when someone reaches out to me. Yeah, but again, we're so isolated. That sense of kind of, you can be in a room full of people and still feel very lonely.
Yes.
And
of course.
honestly, there's been numerous studies about social media, and social media does increase depression and anxiety. Matter of fact, there was a study that Facebook did. And Facebook's own study demonstrated that the more time people spent on Facebook, the more depressed they were.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, you can't help but comparing yourself, right?
Exactly.
And if you're going through some stuff, and then you're comparing yourself to someone that their Facebook, everything they post looks positive and happy, and it seems like they're always going on vacation, they're always doing fun stuff. Yeah,
That's how I felt when I saw him.
What?
Yeah, we reconnected on Facebook, and I saw
really?
him. Yeah, he had the girl, and he had this card. He posted that over. He posted it, and
Oh, I
and
know.
I said, "Damn, we went to the same school. What the fuck did I do?
I know.
What did
No,
I
no,
not do?
I was,
I got depressed.
I was seeing your stuff on Facebook and going,
Yeah.
okay, little Jeremy made something of himself.
Oh,
he did good.
Yeah, we should have been talking about that guy. in
A
school.
blind squirrel can find a nut. That's the thing. Keep sniffing around long enough.
Yeah. People look at Jeremy's Facebook and they're like, hey, man, he really came up in the world. They look at mine and like, dang, Mike got fat.
No, honestly, I think that does happen. That didn't happen to me, but I think it really can. But I think if we could find a way, I look at people, especially people like Jeremy, because I knew him. Like we were all like this. We were kind of. I say we were poor kids. I say we were.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Compared, yeah. And when I see people be successful, it's more of a inspiration to me.
Yeah.
And it's more of a like, you know what, I need to get out here and do this, and I'll study the person. Like I may not talk to them, but I'll also study them and study what they're doing, and that will keep you from becoming depressed.
You know what's funny? I'll do an observation for each three of you real quick. Some
Okay.
Fun exercise. So I'm on social media, and I observed all your social medias, you included.
Okay.
And starting with you, I actually give you a lot of praise. You got a young man in this world, Jude.
Mr. Jude, yeah,
Yeah.
I love him to death.
He's a gorgeous boy. He is.
Thank you. He's my pride and joy.
But
my
you've done a
little
lot.
mini me.
I've known you for a long time, long time, and you've done a lot. You went from Crowley, right? And
Trailer
you-
Park. I
Yeah.
was Trailer Park girl.
Trailer Park, yeah, right behind the Dairy Queen.
Yep.
And now look at you.
Charlotte City.
Yeah, Chalet, yeah.
Old
Now-
Charlotte City.
but look
Yeah,
at
Charlotte
you.
City.
Y'all talk about me, but look at you.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know. I guess it never feels that way to us. You know, because for me, the whole time it's been a struggle after struggle after struggle.
That's everybody.
And I kind of feel like I will have come up when I don't feel like I'm struggling.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, but you persevered. You show perseverance, and when people see that, it is motivating. And I'll say the same about you. Like I see your social media. For one, you're always in shape. I mean, you are always in good shape. And he's always training. He's always on point. Dude, I don't ever do that. You can look at my life and go, oh, yeah, this guy's got businesses and whatever money you want to, however you want to look at it. But, man, I ain't in shape. You are.
Man, I ain't in shape no more, boy. I'm getting older.
But your out of shape is way better than my out of shape. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
But no, and you're always looking good. You're always talking good. I mean, you got good shit going, dude.
I'm happy, yeah.
Yeah, and Mike, you have such a fun, authentic. Mike's Mike. And I always love just seeing you because it's unfiltered. And the thing about you, man, is you got a lot of good friends, a lot of people. There's an aura and a charm about you that I don't think you really even know. It's just what makes you you. And it's really enjoyable to be your friend and see that because we all kind of, this whole table's here because of you, really. And because of that charm, that radiant is infectious. Yeah. So some things aren't about paper and money.
Yeah.
That shit's overrated.
It's more money, more problems.
Oh, dude, always, shit.
And people, what I suggest to people too is when you look at what people have, whether good or bad, you also have to look at the work that comes with it. Yeah. It's real. When we get on Facebook, just like when I was a fighter or when I was in shape, which I was.
You were a fighter?
Yes. But I looked nice. There were some days I got to pat myself on the back. But then there were times where I looked good, but when I went to the doctor, I had high blood pressure, and I don't even know why. And I'm eating right, and I'm this, and I'm that. Yeah. I even have issues now. So sometimes things look good, or like women, you see a woman and you see her with all this nice stuff and nice purses, but then you know her personally, and it's like, man, she's sleeping with 4 or 5 different guys. And she, and she's on.
Although I don't want to shame that.
Well,
we ain't judging.
In fact, I salute that.
But what I'm saying is, I didn't. But like, or she's like on some type of drugs, or like she's depressed about our lifestyle, and what I'm just basically saying that sometimes you don't know what a person went through to get where they are, or what they may be doing that you wouldn't do. I'm talking about that's not positive. I'm going to say that doing that is not positive, but maybe it is. But basically,
I got you, dude.
Yeah, they lost me with that all.
I called you out.
I'm thinking more like positivity and doing it. But what I'm saying is, I'm just basically saying that social media just shows only that. It doesn't show the behind the scenes.
It shows what that person wants to show.
Right. And if you do the behind it.
When you showing and hoeing, I'm going.
Hey, man. Or you don't know when a person's, or how much struggle they have sometimes, or how many people they really owe money, or how much it is, or even just the stress of having to maintain it.
Exactly. Yeah, but people still make those comparisons.
Right, they do. No, they do.
And those comparisons can make you feel really bad, especially if you're someone that's already depressed.
Right.
And let's face it, we post-COVID, there's a lot to be depressed about.
Hell yeah, man.
Mike, how are you doing?
How am I doing?
With your friend's loss. Do you mind sharing her first name, or is that too personal?
You know what? I don't really want to drop her name. It's someone that I think a lot of us know.
Okay, that's why I was wondering. I'm not sure if I knew who it was, but
I'll just say that she went to our school. She was in my graduating class, and she spent the last 20 years living in Norway with her husband and daughter.
Okay.
And
how are you doing, though?
We have a lot of mutual friends. I mean, I'm dealing with it. I'm more sad for some of my friends that were like really, really close to her, that they were besties, and I know that they're having a really hard time. So, my thoughts definitely go out to them, but it's tough for all of us. She was a great person.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to. You've got to take that time to grieve, though. Like, that's the very healthiest thing you can do, because everybody grieves in their own time. There is no set way that somebody is supposed to grieve. And I think many times there's pressure to hurry up and get over that grieving process, like get over it already. But, again, I think some losses you'd never really get over. You just learn to live through.
Yes, that sounds great.
Absolutely. And that would be especially when it comes to parents. Because I know that I am not who I was when my father passed. I will never be that person again. And then now that I've lost both of them, I mean, I feel like I live in a whole different world now.
Yeah.
And I've just learned to get used to it, but there's never getting over it.
I agree.
Exactly. Yeah.
Man, I think when you get used to death, and that's my issue. I think that's when you know something is really wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like where I grew up, and a lot of my people got killed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had my best friend's brother. Somebody went in his house and robbed him and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kids, and it was scary at the time.
Yeah.
And then you hear about it to this person, and you get to a point where you're just glad to see people alive. You're not really sad when they die. And
that is so much trauma.
And I know that there's definitely something wrong with me to feel that way. Like sometimes when people die and friends are like, "Oh, he died," and they're so sad. I'm like, damn, man, we're 40 years old. You know how many people died?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's not right for me to feel that way. And so I recognize, like, dang, there's probably something wrong with me. But I come from a world where a lot of people feel like that.
I wouldn't say there's something wrong with you. I would say that's an injury.
Yeah.
That's trauma.
Yeah.
And just because you have trauma does not mean something is wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like otherwise, like there'd be something wrong with a lot of us, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, trauma creates that wound, and if you don't work on healing that trauma, that's when you start running into a lot of problems, depression, anxiety, and then along with that is a lot of times with trauma. Not only do people's lives themselves, are not as enriched as they could be, but it also affects the lives of the people around them because people with trauma oftentimes lash out.
Yeah.
And hurt people. They either hurt themselves or they hurt other people, hurt the people around them.
I agree.
So how do you counsel trauma? How do you counsel it? Someone says I have a traumatic background, and I mean, how do you unfurl that, if you want to call it that? How do you?
Oh, you're trying to get all the secrets.
I want to hear the sauce. I want to hear the sauce.
All right. Let me show you back behind where the sauce is made. No, really, one of the things I really work on first thing before we get into deep talk about their trauma is I work on their coping skills. Like, how are you going to deal with it if you start having a flashback? How are you going to start dealing with it if you start disassociating and you're having those ruminating thoughts about your trauma? So first and foremost, I'm really big on teaching coping skills. I use a lot of DBT, that's dialectical behavior therapy. And what I really like about it is, it has some stuff from like CBT, like reframing negative thoughts, challenging those negative thoughts, but it adds in elements of mindfulness. So really mindfulness being those situations where you actually take the time to appreciate and be fully present. Because, we go through our lives on autopilot a lot of times and we are not fully present. And then you wonder why, I can't think of anything happy or, any pleasant memories. Well, again, with trauma, you disassociate more. And when you're disassociating, you're not forming those happy new memories. So we do a lot of that in connecting with the self and learning mindfulness techniques to kind of, so that person is much more present in their life. And then, yes, we definitely do go back and talk about the actual trauma. But I don't like to push people into talking about their trauma. I'll remind them. I'm like, well, we still haven't done this. So, when you're ready, that's something and I'll ask, hey, are you ready to talk about this yet? Because pushing someone doesn't help. But I find that by the time I've gone through we work on the coping skills and mindfulness and self-care, kind of their mental health first aid. By the time we get to the trauma, they have the tools to kind of deal with it in a much healthier way when the trauma starts coming out. And then they kind of start making connections between the things that they do today and their past trauma.
Interesting. So I would be curious, what, when I hear about trauma, I wonder if it's the same type of feeling people get when they think about their own demise. Because like with Mike.
Oh, like existential dread?
Right. And that's what I wonder because like with Mike, I know he's got, you confirm this, but number one, he's missing loved ones, people that he was dependent on for emotional support. Number two, and I think I feel this way because I lost my dad. I don't know if you knew that. No, my dad. Yeah,
your dad was so sweet.
Yeah, he was. He was awesome.
He was.
he passed away a couple years ago, and that was hard, as well on me. And then I start thinking about my own demise. I start thinking about, shit, now I'm getting older. I'm going to die. And so then you go from the emotional support or lack of to demise. Where does that fit in your...
That can feed into trauma, honestly, because, when you experience the death of someone that you're very, very close to, that's, that can be traumatic for people. Understand, and I'm not talking like full-on PTSD, anything like that.
Right.
But what we know now with research is that, way back in the day, we used to think about big T's and little T's, like the big traumas versus the little traumas. And we had this idea that, it was only the big traumas that affected people. Now we know better. So now we know that, big T's affect people, little T's also affect people. And a lot of things, kind of feed into that. Like, how long did the trauma take place? And was it, just one little T, or was it a bunch of little T's over a period of time? So all of those things can, increase both depression and anxiety.
So specifically, when people think about their own demise and they come to you and go, I'm just afraid to die, what do you say? So I don't want to die.
Yeah, we talk about it. We talk about it.
What does it look like?
Okay.
Am I putting you on the spot?
A little bit.
Sorry.
Okay, so that's okay.
Ooh, shake it off.
So you're afraid to die?
I'm not personally.
Okay.
I'm really not. I would tell you if I was. I'm really not.
Okay.
But I have been. And I've, it's not more about the fear of death. It's just the fear of what happens when you die. Like, is it completely gone, or do you have life after death? Or then you worry about people that you leave behind. It's not the actual death process so much. That
just kind of the blowback from it.
The blowback, yeah. And I figured when people start getting reminded of death because of lost ones you love, people and close to you, and then you have health scares, which reminds us that we're fragile.
Yes.
We're fragile beings. And then when you realize that you're fragile and you realize, okay, well, I'm a sentient being, so fuck, I got all this cranking up in here, right?
Yeah.
The question is, what now?
Well,
I'm fucked up.
Well, I want to address, so your particular thoughts around, death kind of revolve around look what you leave behind and how the people you leave behind are handling it, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
One thing I feel like could help you, just an idea, what could you do to prepare for that so that, you don't feel so worried about that and that's not such a concern for you?
Okay. Yeah, like will, testament, things like that, or
yeah, will and testament, setting up trust.
Tell them how I really feel before I go. Look, come on over here. I'm gonna tell you. No,
conversations.
Absolutely,
I have
having
a lot
those
of
conversations
with my daughter because I know that she's an only child, and there's kind of just me and our mom, and then a couple. So I know we're not going to be here forever. So oftentimes I have conversations with her about it, which is very hard.
That is hard.
Like I more like try to just like I'm always, hey, you got to do it because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm always telling her what she has to do different. My parents did the same thing, and they're still here. So hopefully I'll still be here.
Well, I think the other part of it too is making sure that you create those cherished moments with those loved ones, right? So making a point to instead, many times we get caught up in work, we get caught up in household tasks, we got caught up in just things we need to get done. And we don't necessarily take that time to slow down and appreciate our time and create those fun memories. So I feel like that's the most important thing. Maybe that's, and, it's not necessarily even spending money. It's me, for example, with my son, I've got, my son's a only child as well. He's only 5. He's cute as hell. But doing things like, for his birthday, we're renting a pool for him. Because we don't have access to a swimming pool. So I'm running a pool for him and doing this big pool party because that's what he wanted. He wants to go camping. So that's another thing I'm going to be working towards. Like, I think he's still a little bit on the young side just because he likes to run around and, disappear.
Yeah, they do at that age.
Yeah.
They do.
Right to a wild boar.
Yeah. But just doing those good things together where you're just enjoying each other's company and forgetting about all the things you need to get done for a little while.
I think one of the things that you said about creating memories, that was something that my parents did a lot of. My father, in particular, was big into photography. I mean, we had thousands and thousands of pictures of every event. Every time we went on a trip or vacation, we have so many pictures.
Well, we know he likes to take a picture of your mom's ass. We heard about
Hey,
that.
Why did I want to say
Sorry,
that?
Mike.
I thought
All right.
maybe I shouldn't say that. 'Cause
So-
I'm serious. I was just, I wanted to
so
say
there was that, and then
Hey, that's just a healthy,
Hey.
intimate relationship.
it
There,
is.
there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
That's
when we
healthy.
discussed it before, it was healthy for sure. But yeah, you know, his thing was taking pictures, and we still have a lot of them. But one of the big things that he always he always did was Easter. He would always take us to this Easter egg hunt at the base on Carswell, NAS Fort Worth, they call it now. And that was like one thing that we never missed. And it's something that I've tried to keep going since then. So every year I try to host my own. Holy crap.
get that out, man.
all right.
I'm looking at you and I'm getting scared.
Edit that out.
Need water?
No, I'm fine.
Is that air?
And I grab the water.
I guess y'all didn't hear.
Okay,
I
so
heard you.
We heard.
I would continue
So you were saying,
the
You're a
Easter
dirty,
egg
dirty
hunt.
man.
And, you know, I try to take pictures and bring the kids out and, you know, do it for my friends, their kids, my family. And really, you know, it's just one thing that I try to keep going that I picked up from him. And hopefully one day someone will pick that up from me and keep it going even further. So
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
that's just something that came to mind when you talked about, you know, how important memories are and creating them.
I like that because in a way you're kind of creating a legacy. You're taking over that legacy from your dad, and you're kind of hoping that one of your kids will take up the mantle and continue that legacy from there.
I would like that for sure.
it's crazy. You know, I often think he's talking about a memory, but I do ruminate in thoughts of the past
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, I'm talking back in the 80s and shit, you know, and what I have the benefit of. My dad, similar to yours, was a videographer. He enjoyed, I don't know if you remember, he always had a video camera. And everyone used to give him shit. They're like, Mickey, you know, that video camera, that back then it was new.
Yeah.
People go,
You actually sound like your mom there, by the way.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, my mom was real. Y'all, if you remember, I don't know if you remember voice, she's real Texan, you know. You little bastard, come over here. You know, mama, yeah, that thing. Yeah, we grew up in a hillbilly house, you know, dogs everywhere, you know, we know. Jeff's like,
We
yeah.
discussed that.
His dogs and guitars.
Dude, it was. Fuck. But I do think, and it's funny you say that, I think of those moments, like even the house off Pinehurst, you know, the old street and just the old days. You know, I think about people that I used to hang out with, like, it's funny, for some reason it's popped in my head randomly, if he was listening, y'all laugh, but Wee Wee. He's one of the first guys I met when I moved to Southwest Fort Worth in 1988. I met him and his brother Michael.
Yeah.
I met him back in 1988.
Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut.
Yeah.
And I remember him, Wee Wee, just being so little and just thinking back in those days. And we had a good time and we used to play and basketball to bullshit. And now just those seem like a whole other lifetime ago.
Right.
Even memories I have with you guys just sitting in here, and it specifically when I have someone like my father
Yeah.
and friends, I think back of those moments, and I'm able to reflect in reality because of the video cameras, the videography. You know, we have a bunch of videos, and so it's really neat to have. But anyways, the whole point is it definitely has been on overdrive since I've lost my dad. A lot. Beforehand, I didn't think much of it, you know?
So, I mean, you really appreciate people more after you lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even see that with
Well,
artists.
some of you motherfuckers, I'm glad they're gone. I ain't gonna lie. All right. So put it out there. But
What I want to ask
Not
you
for
about,
nothing.
what I would like to ask you about is, I noticed you said you were talking about how we compare things, and I think an issue that, and I like talking about my personal issues too, because I know there's somebody else who may feel this same way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you're talking about comparing things, I have very bad anxiety, and I learned the difference in anxiety and depression, but to me, it's kind of one and the same sometimes.
They really come together.
Yeah.
I mean, really, where you see one, the other one's right there.
Yeah,
oftentimes,
and the medication makes it worse and all that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have an issue with comparing back then to now and not accepting now. Like with the new male relationship, with the new way of this, allowing your child to go do this, and we didn't do it this way. Is it better to just, what I had to do with a lot of things is I had to just accept that, this is the way it is. And it's kind of either you get with this or you stay here and you get stuck trying to get things back to where you say they should be or where they were. So as a counselor or, with you being a professional, what is your view on dealing with that? Like, where is the line where you, hey, this is the way it is now. And if you want to, not go crazy or not be depressed or not have anxiety, you have to just accept it and kind of get with the program.
It is really funny you mention that because
that's a big thing.
One of the big things that I teach is something called radical acceptance. Again, comes from DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. But with radical acceptance, that idea, the idea is basically you look at the things in your life that you cannot change,
right? And
you have to accept it. That doesn't mean you have to like it. That doesn't mean you have to, be happy about it, but you radically accept it, as in you stop fighting against it. You stop spending time on it. And instead you work on the things you can change.
Yeah. That's crazy that you say that.
It reminds me of the Serenity Prayer.
I was just about to say that.
And that's how I teach it.
Yeah, they have this book, and because I grew up in a somewhat of a Christian household.
Yeah.
No, I ain't gonna say somewhat. I was not BS. I grew up in a Christian household because I have my own, but I have my own belief about what it really. But anyway, we had that on our I guess you could say coffee table.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little picture of what we call the white Jesus. And on the left, it looked like a Bible opened up, and it was him on one side, and it had that. And when I heard you say that, I was like, dang, I got taught that when I was a child.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I teach radical acceptance, that's how I teach it. I and of course, I work at a psychiatric hospital, county psychiatric hospital. So I don't like throwing religion into it because I might have somebody that come in there that's Buddhist or someone that's Muslim, Yeah. But, so I say it like this: grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Yeah. And that's radical acceptance in a nutshell. Yeah.
Sometimes as I get older, like with things like that, and you realize the things to deal with stuff, you just forget about them and get caught up in all the, like what you just said. That's
like
so
the minutia. Yeah.
And it's like, I know, when you said it, like, man, I know that.
Well, the funny thing about it is I was actually introduced to that idea when I was still on active duty, and I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan, as a Marine. But I was supposed to be PCSing back to the States, and I had so much stuff to get done, and I started freaking out, and I actually had a panic attack. I've never had a panic attack before, but I had a panic attack. And so one of my buddies, who, he was a wise guy, honestly, unfortunately, I've lost touch with him. But one of my buddies was like, hey, here's what you need to ask yourself. Can I do anything about that right now? I was like, well, blah. He's like, no. Right now, can you do anything about it? I was like, well, no. All right. Then is worrying about it and working yourself up, is that helping solve that problem in any way? Well, no, not really. Then why are you worrying about it? You're just stressing yourself out.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's really weird, but radical acceptance has almost been like a theme in my life where, even, years before I even thought about therapy, being a therapist, having it brought up that way. And later on as a therapist, I realized, oh gosh, in that moment, that was so wise because that was radical acceptance.
Yeah. It works.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
I have a question.
Sure.
Because I noticed you said therapist, and then I was calling you a counselor.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't.
No.
Yeah, I hope it's not like calling somebody from South America Mexican or nothing.
No.
I got a buddy from Argentina, and he will kick my ass for that.
Yeah, they don't want to do that.
Yeah. What is the difference? I've heard a little bit, like I said, I heard it like if you're a psychiatrist, you can make prescriptions of this, but what exactly is the difference in a therapist, a counselor, All the different ones.
all those terms are very confusing.
Yes.
Honestly, before I became one and learned enough about it myself, I didn't know either. So again, it could be very confusing. So a therapist or counselor, it's kind of used interchangeably. Licensed professional counselor is what they call it in Texas, for that licensure. In other states, sometimes they call it, sometimes they use therapist instead. But I like to use the word therapist. The only issue with therapist is that a lot of times the term gets kind of watered down by people, here's a recreation therapist and here's and not to say that because those are very important jobs, but there's various different types of therapists. So I'm, specifically mental health therapist.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, so psychiatrist is someone that goes to school to be a doctor and then chooses to specialize in mental health psychiatry. So because they're a doctor, they're able to prescribe medication.
That's probably we go get those full bars from the Xanax and all that.
Well, honestly,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that actually interesting you mentioned that. It's we actually we had a huge mental health crisis with that type of medication. Specifically the benzos and the opiates.
Yeah.
So there's been a real big push to avoid prescribing those.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get Xanax now.
Yeah, it used to be I just go in there, man, I can't sleep, I'm having problems with this, and they just give it to you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ain't,
There you
check
go.
your blood and all. God,
Yes.
that ain't
Well, they
working.
got to do all that, and then they're more likely if they do prescribe Xanax, it's for a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
Instead of just like being on Xanax for years and years. Honestly, it causes tons of problems. Like it causes problems in the brain. Issues with memory, and issues with executive function, decision making. Basically, it messes up your decision making process. So you end up making some pretty crazy decisions.
Oh, that might
Not
be
to
what's
use
wrong
the
with a
C
lot of
word.
people from our generation.
Yes,
Yeah, we're on
that.
Xanax.
Because we got a lot of people, and back in my
Mm-hmm.
younger days, that was a popular thing.
Yes.
I wasn't into that, but I just know a lot of people that were. And, it was,
Mm-hmm.
my.
And then you have what else? Psychologist. Psychologists typically they specialize in testing, assessment and testing. Which, as a therapist, I can do diagnosis, but it's basically, and I do diagnose for the insurance companies. Basically, when I do the reporting.
Yeah.
But psychologists, they actually, the way they diagnose, they can actually write the letters for special services and stuff like that.
So who's the professional that identifies a bunch of the different personalities in people?
Oh, you're talking about
Split personalities?
yes,
DID?
DID. Yes,
Well,
it's
I
called dissociative identity disorder now.
Can you aid in that a little bit? Because I have someone that I see on this, one of my ladies,
Yeah.
I can
One of
identify
your
3 or 4
ladies.
personalities,
All right.
I'm trying to dig the other 6 or 7, but I need someone that can help me out,
I can give you the clinical information about it, but it's a very controversial topic.
I think that's called female.
Excuse me?
I'm just saying. I'm sorry, but
He's not
Hey.
used to having a woman on the podcast.
no. Hey, I am the agitator.
Someone who's
I
going to
push
get
the-
him.
I push the buttons.
Well, we have emotional depth, so I think that's maybe what you're thinking of.
I don't know. I call it female. If you want to get on me for it, hey, I welcome it.
I
This
will.
is the hour for it, not the next hour. But this is-
Oh, no, I get it.
yeah, no, that's who I am, man. I have to say what I think,
I feel you.
and then if I'm wrong, you tell me. But
We'll slap you down.
yeah, go. I was a kid that got whippings every day, and I still I did anything for a laugh. I
Okay.
stand on my desk and act stupid, knowing good and well when I get home, my dad's gonna beat my ass. But I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
Like something made me do it. So I think I have a disorder. like I know. Like don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, I
He
mean,
just beat me to the mom's ass thing.
there's a lot.
'Cause I
well,
was trying to
there's-
think. Like no,
there's a lot of
don't do
things
it.
that weren't diagnosed then that we know a lot more about.
Yeah, like I was an ADD baby,
Yeah.
and I think they made that up.
No. We can see structural changes in the brain. Seriously. They do.
I love where he goes.
No, really.
Everything's made up, but go ahead. I love it.
No. You can see structural changes in the brain. I can't remember if it's a CAT scan or MRI, but one of them measures the flow of oxygen to like different parts of the brain, and so that flow of oxygen tells you that part of the brain is busy, like it's doing stuff. And with ADHD, when compared to like a neurotypical brain, you can see definite differences.
Okay. How do you think?
Also with
this
depression
may
and
be a-
anxiety.
Yeah. How do you think it came about?
Oh, ADHD.
ADD first, because You
Well,
had ADD first, then
okay.
So how do you think it come up? You can give me your professional. You know what the book say because I'm going to give you what I believe.
Okay.
If it's okay.
Of course it is.
Honestly, I just consider it a form of neurodiversity. I mean, some of us are neurospicy, and I'm cool with that. I think the DSM sometimes it focuses on pathologizing brain differences, and sometimes that's makes a lot of sense. If you have bipolar disorder, and honestly, in order to keep yourself stable and functional, you need to take medication. Okay, well, all right then. People with ADHD, I find, like, I have ADHD, but I'm unmedicated. Now, back when I worked for corporate America, I did have to medicate myself because I was in a situation where if I didn't medicate myself, I literally had a hard time doing my job and staying focused and getting everything done and being productive. Now, I'm a therapist, and honestly, I stand in front of people and talk and do groups. I do like 5 groups a day. And so I find that I don't need that medication because something about standing up and talking, and it focuses me mainly.
I'm that way too.
Yeah.
I have ADHD.
Yeah, they say
Well, I know
have-
this.
You can see it. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, you
I'll
never
sit here and I'm
still.
like this. I'm like fucking.
You're very fidgety.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm a fidgety motherfucker.
Do you believe that a lot of children, and this is what's going to get into what I wanted to talked about,
All right.
that a lot of children are misdiagnosed? Like,
Yes.
and the reason why I say this is I got to go to because we all have
Yeah.
different places and backgrounds, but where I come from, a lot of fathers, you had drugs, crack, cocaine, this 70s,
Yeah.
early 80s, and they took a lot of fathers out of the homes, and when for selling these drugs,
Yeah.
and they were locked up. So you had a lot of boys, big strong males like myself. We
Yeah.
had athletes, future boxers, future craftsmen
Yeah.
that had all this energy, and they didn't have a father to take them outside and play football. They didn't
Yeah.
have a father to this, and their mother had to come into a community where there was no parks and no this. And so these boys have all this energy, and when they go to school, they act up.
Yeah.
The mother is not able to do this and that because she's at work or whatever. And so they say, hey, give them this medication.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, this medication was similar to the drugs that their father got locked up in.
There are similarities between Adderall and things like that and methamphetamine.
And
Adderall is a type of amphetamine.
And what about cocaine and Prozac?
Uh,
Well, whatever medicines they were given for
Yeah.
ADD.
Ritalin.
Ritalin. I mean,
Yeah.
there you go. That's what I. and
yeah,
what-
they're all stimulants.
Yes, there you go. And then what happened is over the years of these children that were on these drugs, because if you notice, you had ADD. Well, when did that come out? In the 80s, early 80s?
I think that's probably
Yeah, I'm not good with
accurate,
statistics.
like when it was
so I'm
recognized.
I'm just
yeah.
going to say, yeah.
I
And
haven't really done the deep
yeah,
dive
there you
into
go.
those.
You don't have to be exact here.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely not.
Uh-huh.
And then you have a few years later, in the later 80s, early 90s, you start coming out with ADHD.
Yeah.
What happens is on these medications that people become immune to them. I'm saying and then it gets worse. So do you think that a lot of people, like today, because I know friends like me, I was going to get into a certain type of class, but luckily I had parents and I had people in church that said, no, there's nothing wrong with this boy. He just need to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And I had a counselor that could watch me in school. And I went from possibly going to remedial classes and medication to actually being in accelerated classes.
Well, okay, so for one thing, there's a lot of there's a lot of intersectality between ADHD, trauma, right?
Right.
Trauma, and believe it or not, autism.
I got you.
Yeah, there's kind of there's a big intersect there, and especially with women and girls, honestly, because most of the studies on ADHD were done with boys and men.
Right, exactly.
So there's a big bias in that, and so the way women and girls present is very different.
Right.
But I also think that there was some misdiagnosis there.
That's
I
what
also
I'm
think that in many cases, there was kind of an over dependence on that medication.
Yes,
because
all of
even if you have that medication, you still need to learn skills.
Exactly.
And that's, and like, for example, when I was on the ADHD medication, yes, it helped me focus more. Yes, it kept me on track and everything. But at the same time, I also had to teach myself skills so that, like coping skills, so that when later on I came off the medication, I still had those coping skills, so they kind of saw me through it.
Right.
But yeah, I
But
feel
you-
like in the 90s there was a lot of just tossing medication at kids and
you
not
go.
really
There you go.
not really working on the other things they needed to work on.
That's what I'm getting at when I say misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
So because I know a lot of people like this,
Mm-hmm.
and they have other like addictions in this.
Yeah.
They come from these childhood.
Well,
I
it's
believe
because
it does.
it's because they are
They become dependent.
they become dependent and then they start using other substances.
Right.
And I can't remember the term, but using self-medicating.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
other substances.
How do you deal, or what do you recommend for people like that? Could counseling? What I'm basically asking you is counseling. Could it work for things like this?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 'cause-
Actually, one of the best ways, for a lot of these types of, I'm going to say neurotypical issues. Like,
Yeah.
I don't consider ADHD to be like a mental illness, quote unquote.
Shit, tell that to
But
the last
the
person that
effects
gave me a hard time.
But,
Oh,
but
really?
the effects from
Yeah.
the medicine, that's what I'm more looking at. Maybe
Yeah.
not ADHD itself, but if you were on Ritalin or if you were on this or on that for so many years,
It does cause changes in the brain, and
There
if
you
you did not need them,
that's what my
Well,
point.
and another thing about it though is when you're talking about diagnosis, okay, I feel like there's a lot of bias that goes into it sometimes. Bias from the parents, because the parents have their mind made up that this is what the problem is, and so they will specifically tell the psychiatrist things that, again, using bias, things that support that diagnosis.
That's true. That's
and
true.
not thinking to mention other things.
That's true.
For example, my former stepson, initially, he was diagnosed with ADHD, and it just didn't sit right with me. It was like, no, he's not ADHD. So I started looking into some of the things that he was doing, and I was like, holy crap, I think he has autism.
Yes.
And it was years later that he actually got the correct diagnosis of autism, and that made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But like the ADHD medication, I really didn't like what it did to his personality because I didn't feel like he needed it.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he was a very busy boy. I remember when he was like 3 years old, I remember him jumping off of a coffee table and me basically doing like a full-on dive to catch him
Damn.
from hitting the floor because I was like, oh my God, if he goes home with bruises, they're going to give me so much hell.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I just want to put that out because I always like to represent a certain group of people or where I come from. And in the situation you said is right, but I know people more in this situation. The mother's trying to work.
Yeah.
The school's calling her every day. Hey, your son's doing this. Your son's doing that.
Yeah.
Hey, we think he needs to be this. Hey, we think he needs. And the mother doesn't really know. All she knows is I need to go to work and I don't need to. I can't afford for them saying they're about to kick him out of school because I don't have nowhere for him to go.
I went through that with my son,
Give him the
honestly.
medicine. Give
Yeah.
him the medicine. These people, because that's who I'm more talking about.
Gotcha.
What kind of advice could you give them? I know they have to pay more attention, be more active, because there's a lot of people in that situation right now.
Oh, yeah,
And there's going
absolutely.
to be a lot of young, like I say, more males that I know of, and they're going to be diagnosed with something or they're going to be given something that's going to affect them later. What are other ways as a counselor, as a therapist, that you could provide or information or advice you could give? I'm going to just say a
okay.
single mother in this situation.
Absolutely. Well, I am a single mother, and I was in this situation. My son, he got kicked out of multiple daycares, like over and over again. Like it was so stressful. And then when I started him in public school for kindergarten, the first couple of weeks went okay, but then they were calling me to pick him up every day because he was doing some wild stuff.
Was he like yelling and screaming, or what is he
Oh no,
doing?
he was leaving the classroom. He'd just take off running, and then have to chase him around the school.
Oh, damn.
Oh no, I got more. He actually eloped from the school. He ran out of the school, and they had to
Damn.
chase him down.
Damn.
And in the library, okay, so he stole the librarian's walker and was running. I'm not kidding. He was running around
Problem
the school with
child,
that.
man. Remember that movie?
And then the other thing too is like when he would have meltdowns, and so his meltdowns were incredibly violent. Like he'd have a meltdown with me. He'd be punching me in the face, trying to break
man.
my glasses, biting me,
Oh, really?
kicking me, spitting on me. Oh yeah, yeah.
Damn, he's 5?
Man,
Yeah, he's 5.
You know what my
Started
parents would
doing
have
this
said?
really bad when he was 3.
You know what my parents would have said?
Oh, I know. You would have said to whoop his ass.
They would have said, ain't nothing wrong with that boy. He didn't need his ass whooped.
Yeah, you know what? I
That's what they
tried.
would have said.
Yeah, no, I know.
I tried that route out of desperation, and I'll be honest, all it did was make him more aggressive.
So
And
what's
then
wrong with
plus-
him?
He has autism, OCD, ODD, which is oppositional defiant disorder, and ADHD.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, you could tell who's ADHD in this group. Just look at my pad.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Well, hey, I got one more question,
Sure.
and then we'll have to put a wrap to part one of
Okay.
our conversation.
You didn't get your question answered.
No, you did great. Everything's
Awesome.
great.
But I actually have a family member who, as a child, was diagnosed with critical stage hyperactiveness, and they wanted to give her Ritalin back then.
Okay.
And I guess we've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but do the medications, you think, over the years, do they really make some people worse?
I would say that if the diagnosis is not correct, yes. Again, some forms of autism, the way they present as if it's ADHD, like for the untrained observer. But then, if you have more trained clinical eyes, you might see the other things and go, oh, wait a minute, no, that's not what's going on there at all, or maybe that's not all that's going on there. Yeah, because you can treat if they, like my son, he has ADHD. Treating the ADHD did not help with all the other behaviors, So it really does take a really good psychiatrist, and I'll be honest, those are very hard to find, and a really good psychologist as well, to get that really good, accurate diagnosis.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, this is the Gen X Talk podcast, and we are joined today by licensed professional counselor Mary Susan Lyons, MS. And we are available everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. Check us out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yes.
And we will be back next week for part 2 of our conversation with Counselor Susan. So until next time, we will see you later.